Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific North, fresh from the good to the bad to the first place Mariners.
First place
The
Mariners.
Pinche Mariners.
The pesky Mariners keep staying on top, baby.
Mariners just had a road series that we will break down, finished 500 on said road series. But before we break that down, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy that is going to try to inch ever closer to a 54% win percentage with his attendance in games, trying to go from 0-1 to 1-1 tomorrow. If you're looking for a guy like that, you're looking for a guy like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on X at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. Also, find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, and leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy that is going to armchair quarterback, because he hasn't seen any of these guys live this year, not even once.
Well, tickets are
But he
expensive.
will be, but he will be sitting there while I'm watching Brian Wu just wheel and deal, just on that woo
Eh,
woo train. So if you're ready for the conductor, you're looking for Kane.
Yeah, I like that intro. That one was one of the best ones you've done yet.
Choo
Yes, I'm
choo.
Kane. You can find me over on Twitter at Kane2406, on TikTok at Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Pause. Do it, freaking do it. And tickets are expensive and gas, dude. I live 3 hours away. That's
That's
a whole lot of gas that I got to put in my car. And my wife told me it was over $5 over on your neck of the woods. So no, thank you.
just under $5.
Not in Preston.
But when
So
we are talking about fives, guess what? The Mariners were 500 on the road trip, which brings their season win total to 55.2%. That is 1.2% higher than the goal. So we are on track. And going into
yes,
today, sub a game lead in the division. And you've got a pretty winnable series coming up against White Sox that we will break down next week. But we will talk about the week that was starting off last Tuesday versus the Oakland Athletics, soon to be Sacramento, maybe Las Vegas Athletics. Kane, hit me with that score.
4-3 Seattle Mariners on top.
Nail biter.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember. That was a
I
week
remember the
ago.
end of the game very vividly. I was also at trivia while I was watching the game. Mariners pieced some stuff together, had the early lead in that one, and then the bullpen
Yeah,
kind of wasn't the best week for the bullpen. Let's just start
kind of
off with
been
that.
kind of imploded this week. I'm just gonna pull these up on my phone. It's so much easier to
Yeah,
recap these.
but the big news from that game, Mariners win, obviously, but Andres Munoz comes in. He looks a little sporadic to start the game, has a pass ball, guys coming home, and cleats get tangled up, and he goes to the ground. Found out after the game that he's been dealing with lower back soreness for the entire year since the second game. Managed it well, but got a little tweaked up, and you know what? Didn't hurt him too bad. And you take it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was that game.
Yep, that
Yeah,
was that game that you should give more details on since we're describing what happened during the game.
yeah. No, that pass ball he broke late too. Cal had a fantastic grab on it after he fumbled it. And it was unfortunate to see him go down, and everybody and their mother thought it was his ankle more than his back because you saw his foot a complete like 90 degrees way it shouldn't have been. Um, but Sauce comes in.
Sauce comes in against JJ Blade as a lefty and walks him, and now you've got runners at first and second, and
Yeah.
just Brent Rooker who feasts on lefty. Well, I want to talk something crazy because I saw the stat during this game. Brent Rooker at the time of that game on Tuesday night, he was batting 278, I believe, almost 280, with 11 or 12 homers and a bunch of RBIs and a 33% strikeout rate. So over 50% of his balls, he's either on base or he's striking out over half the time. There's no ground outs, fly outs, any of that stuff. Like, that's an insane clip to run at. That
Yeah.
high of an average and that high of a strikeout percentage, I thought was bananas.
And the fact that he was nobody before Oakland, it seemed like, right? And just kind of exploded out of nowhere. But yeah, Sauce comes in and shuts the door with the little PFPs to end the game. And good one to win. Good on the morale for Sauce. Very high leverage situation. I'd love to see them going to more, especially with Spire out.
He has been.
He has been more and more nails the better the situation, except for when he gave up the grand slam
Yeah, it
to
was just
show
one
it
bad
now.
pitch.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to game 2.
That one wasn't fun. It was not fun the entirety of the game because they were getting perfectoed
Through 6. What
through
was the score of
6.
that game?
2-1. The Athletics win this one. Not very great to go through it. I mean,
there was something great that happened in that game.
I mean,
Julio Rodriguez off Mason Miller, 102.5 at the top of the zone. He turns it around for exit velo of 103 to straightaway center. That ball was crushed. And then Cal Raleigh gets on first base. Then Ty France gets out. And just a weird thing, because this was before Garver really heated up. So you brought Garver in to pinch hit. Then Robles goes in as a defensive replacement. You've got Ryan Bliss sitting on the bench. He could either A, get on first base and run for you and try to swipe a bag because he hasn't been caught stealing yet, or you throw him up against the fireballer. Instead, you decide to go with your lefty platoon defense first guy, who, granted, has not been the best defensively so far, but he comes in clutch a little bit later. But Victor Robles grounds out to a double play to finish the game. You thought you had something going with Julio really leading that inning off and going yard, but just wasn't in the cards.
I mean, I get throwing Robles in there to an extent of, hey, we just signed you. Show us why we signed you.
I get it for the extent of him going in and being a defensive replacement, but in a big spot, you have Demo that was in the game. You could easily bump him or Rojas into left field if this game goes into extras because the Mariners feast in extras. You're through. You already had Austin Adams throwing that game. You already had Mason Miller throwing that game. I will take my chances with the rest of their bullpen with the rest of our bullpen, right?
Yeah, but and Scott just does some weird stuff sometimes. I think
that was like the biggest,
like,
there were probably 3 or 4 moves that made me scratch my head a little bit during that. It
was
game.
Like when he brought Ryan Bliss in that like bottom of the ninth, to win the game, right? To throw,
he's got big balls.
Yeah,
Scott Service has the nuts.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to game 3.
All right, game 3. The Mariners win 3-0, and the Mariners scored weird.
Brian Wu pitching in his home city, Brian Wu was all sorts of good that day.
He's got rocking a 107 ERA.
And then this was Mitch Garver really turning it around. He had, I think he was 2 for 3 with a home run.
Yes,
and another RBI on top of that. 2 RBIs in the game. Old Demo had a little sac fly as well.
Yeah, the lost art of baseball.
I didn't love it because the bases were juiced with no outs, and I think they scored 1 run on the inning. So didn't love that part of it, but I did love them getting a run in.
Yeah, Garver singled the left. Cal scored And then
Cal Raleigh, second
also,
stolen base of his career alert. Woo, woo, woo,
yeah,
woo.
and then Garv also went deep that game.
Yep.
So
All right, let's go get to the fun and the heartache and the pain and frustration that is playing at Kansas City.
oh, good old Kaufman, dude. Good old Kaufman.
Game one, you got Bryce Miller on the bump, and the Mariners go out and spot a 7-run first inning.
I just want it to be known. I just sat down at dinner with my wife as JP struck out, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah,
And Ryan Bliss. Oh,
we're not
goodness.
we're not even to Ryan Bliss yet.
I know, but
Let's start off with the important thing. Ty France sets the franchise record for most hit by pitches, and then that hit by pitch that hit him in the heel ends up taking him out uh, for Saturday and Sunday. Finds himself on IL. But other good things happened during this. Mitch Garver, bases loaded walk. Mitch Haniger, bases clearing triple with the bases juiced.
double
Oh, double. Then you had Robles with a double. Then you had Ryan Bliss going 421 to left field. That ball passed all the fans.
was
The good thing was he probably didn't have to give up a whole lot of things because I believe a stadium employee.
a staffer got it.
Yeah,
A
perfect.
staffer got it. Like, you saw a fan going for it, and the staffer was like, no, 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 no. I have to grab this.
So I think the Mariners
Absolutely
end
obliterated it.
with 9 runs. They sat there and I believe they left like 11 or 12 guys on base. So unfortunate to see that. But the Royals just kept clawing back. And what was crazy when they played at T Mobile, yes, they won a game, but the Mariners pitching staff seemed to be in pretty good control. Things that you're running on fumes in this a little bit is you had no Munoz going for Friday or Saturday. You had Ryan Stanek, who had pitched
A lot.
like two of the last 3 days or 3 of the last 4 days. So going into that game where he comes in and blows the save. And so you've also just had a little bad luck ball. The
Yeah.
speed. One thing that I really liked with the Mariners, and I think that they'll kind of implement it a little bit more after that Royals series. I saw it a lot after the Orioles series. Hitters are aggressive, and when they get on base with the guys that have some wheels, they put pressure on the pitcher, and it really just distracts the pitcher to the extent of they're paying a little bit of attention so they can't be as fine with their pitches to the plate, right? And
Yes.
that's where you can really spark this. When you look at Rojas that could steal a base, Luke Rayleigh, you saw JP getting the action a little bit more. Ryan Bliss is a speed demon. Julio, of course. Cal Raleigh's even getting in on it. So
Mm-hmm.
getting those guys in motion on the base paths is something that's big. But yeah, that was a heartbreaker of a loss, right? You sit there,
Yeah.
you've been struggling, you're going up against a very hot hitting team in the American League, and you put 7 up in the first run or in the first inning, and you can't capitalize and win that game. And that's just a heartbreaker of a game.
Yeah, and especially like Bobby Witt in the ninth, triples, and then you
Walk the bases loaded, hot shot up the middle. JP kind of he has to dive for it, gets kind of hung up,
fumbled it.
gets the ball to second, but no way you're getting the guy at
Yeah,
first.
and it's just, you know, one of those things, right? And that was not fun. But, this is where you and I were starting to go back and forth for our picks to click. And we were discussing that who was having the better mint.
Yeah,
And
because Ty France in that game was two
two
for three with
doubles
two doubles and a walk
and
and a hit by pitch. And I also texted you and said in that 7-run inning, my pick to click decided to set a Mariners record, and yours got out twice in the same inning.
yeah, that's true.
Oh, geez. Earthquake.
Um, but Garver continuing, he got a double and had two RBIs on it. kind of love seeing that from him. The guys really needed it, and
He didn't have two RBIs on the double. It was just one because his other RBI was for
oh
the
yeah,
walk.
yeah, yeah, the walk. That's right. That's right. All right. To game two, it was close until it wasn't.
You're gonna have to
Um,
fill in. It didn't seem like Luis Castillo was super sharp in that one. That was not a game that
I
I was able to watch. I had too
I
many
gotcha.
obligations that day.
They lost 8-4, and you know, like I said, to the sixth, it was 5-3, or we were up 3-2 in the fifth, and then they kind of just took it from there. It was close until it wasn't. JP started the game off going yeah, and you thought the offense would gel to it because once JP starts doing that, this team plays a little bit better. It has in years past. Didn't really work out that way because we got the early lead again. You're sitting there really enjoying it. You love when the Mariners score runs, right?
That's it's one of my favorite things.
And then come in the
They
first
go quiet.
inning,
And that's the thing with the Mariners. Sometimes they get hot early and then they just decide, hey, guess what,
fizzle
guys? We don't
out.
need to score until like the seventh or eighth inning.
I was sitting there on Friday's game talking to my wife at dinner, and I was like, all right, don't get complacent, and you got to pitch your nuts off. Basically, still, this is the perfect situation I was talking about in last week's episode. But
The Royals have always played weird games versus the
yeah,
Mariners too. Even when the Royals weren't good, usually the Mariners can when the Royals weren't playing good, could take care of business. But there's always one or two games where it's like Salvi Perez wants to hit like 3 homers in a game and you can't get the dude out.
yeah. And so going back to Saturday's game, they were up by one in the second, kind of kept the pitcher still going through then. And then Garv Sauce just barely stays fair on a moonshot home run that he hit. And so you're thinking, hey, all right, this game's tied, brand new ball game. And then they kind of just took off from there. The Mariners scored two more times, and then the Royals just never looked back. They just couldn't get the bats going again. So that was unfortunate out of them. Let's see. Castillo gave up 6 hits, 5 earned runs, walked a guy, and struck out 4.
Yep. Then you get into Sunday's game, and this is a game. Go ahead and hit us with that score real quick.
6-5 Mariners in extras.
And this is a game where you really needed George Kirby to come out and give you a George Kirby type start. And he did just that.
Yeah,
Goes
he did.
7 innings, 1 run ball. The Mariners are right in there the whole time. I believe, didn't Garver hit another home run in this game?
Um,
No, it's JP.
JP, the
JP let it off.
second lefty to hit a home run off Cole Reagans, and the other lefty that's hit a home run off Cole Reagans is
Shohei
Shohei
Ohtani.
Ohtani. So if I'm reading this right, JP is just as good a hitter against lefties as Shohei Ohtani.
Yep. Correlation does not always equal causation, but here we are. Um, Game's pretty tight, and then you get to see Tyler Locklear gets called up for Ty France, and
Yep.
it's going to be interesting to see how long Ty's out because a fracture on the heel. I've seen a lot of varying reports. Said it's not looking good, which some people are like, well, he could be back as early as July. I've also seen some reports where hairline fracture can take 3 to 4 months, which would probably put him out through the rest of the season. So for the second half of this episode, there's a lot of implications that kind of tie into that. But Tyler Locklear comes up and smokes a ball to right center,
Yes.
just out of the reach of Andy Isbell, who is a very good defender, extremely fast. He could not track it down. And the Mariners, continue to build their lead. And then all chaos strikes again. They're down to their final strike. And what is it?
Bauman. Bauman leaves a pitch over the heart of the plate. MJ Melendez is up and absolutely obliterates a ball to tie the game.
And that was tough because you felt good. And then the Mariners, you know, Rojas is starting out on second. They move him over to third. He is extremely close to getting back picked at third base. And then Julio comes through with a clutch 2 RBI single. And you really look, Mariners get a 3-run lead. You're feeling pretty good about that. First pitch by, I believe it's Austin Voth, goes yard again. So the Mariners lead is now cut down to one. Both gets a couple guys out or one guy out, and then it's time for Sauce, the the guy who has the third most saves on this team now, with two after
Yeah.
he closes the door in this game.
Sauce coming in on these closing opportunities is something electrifying happens when he comes in.
I wish he could do it at home. He always seems to do it on the road.
Yeah, but good win. It was a must needed win, especially coming home. You
And
know,
500 road trip, Texas has been reeling a little bit and been playing when the Mariners haven't been
except
playing well.
Corey Seager is injured. So that is tough for them, but it's good for us because
Yeah.
the big thing is the Mariners lose when Texas loses.
And the Astros did not fare well against the Angels. Big ups to the
Again.
Angels.
Again.
So you come out of that road series against, when you really look at it, I could have very well seen this as a sweep and sweep. You sweep the A's and then you get swept by the Royals because the Royals' numbers at home are just bonkers. They were talking about it in the pregame today, where their 25 wins at home is the second most in the majors behind the Phillies for wins at home. So very tough to play there, very offensive minded. The ball can really fly there. And you knew that the Mariners, the starting pitching hadn't looked as good in recent weeks. You're going up against a very hot hitting club, a team that has also been very hot. Couple of games ahead of the Mariners in the overall standings. You knew it was going to be tough, but be able to split the series with them on the year, I think, was huge, and to really come out of there to get your foot in the door for this series against the White Sox, I think, was key.
Yep, I agree.
All right, Kane, it is time to go over picks to click. To recap last week, my pick to click was Ty France, if you combine also Tyler Locklear with him, is a very close race, right?
It was if your guy didn't go back to back games, starting off the game with a home run.
Well, he doesn't hit in the leadoff spot, and he did get some two
Milestone.
RBIs on Tuesday, a couple of knocks on Thursday, also ground rule double for an RBI on Friday, but I digress. Your guy was JP Crawford. JP Crawford is the pick to click of last week.
Yeah, it was. I
Really
told you
heated
guys
up.
it was a turnaround because he was starting to heat up
He also
coming off the
broke up.
Angels
He also
series.
broke up the perfect game with a ball that was about 3 feet short from a homer.
Yeah. Like
So
JP Crawford win right is must watch baseball.
yeah, he's very good. So that puts the season standings. I believe I'm at 3 and you are at 2, and we have a push because neither of our guys were the pick to click 1 week. So Kane, as always, you get to start.
Okay.
Who is your pick to click for the week?
My pick to click this week is going to be Tyler Locklear. I think the rookie is you're getting the White Sox, right? The worst team in baseball. And this is a really good chance for him at home to make a statement to this team. So my pick is Tyler Locklear. Coach Red, who do you got?
Thing that I think that's tough is because the White Sox obviously are not a good team, but they're hitting so atrociously, I think, is the big thing. You do face two of their best starters in this series in Fetty
And
and
Crochet.
Crochet to finish off the series. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Could pick a pitcher for this week. I very well could. Could pick Logan Gilbert since he'll get 2 starts on the week. But
You're not going to do that. Come on, we're here for the hitters.
let's keep it with the rookies. Give me Ryan Bliss as my pick to click
Yeah.
this week. It's an all rookie showdown, Locklear versus Bliss.
I like
And the
it.
other thing that I'll talk about with Bliss right now, the dude was putting on a clinic. The dude is smooth at second base, and he made
So many plays.
probably 2 to 3 web gem caliber plays at second base. Uh, one on Friday. Also, he had a sick basket catch, like over the shoulder, and just pops the glove out like it's nothing. It just looks effortless. It looks
Yeah.
like a more athletic Robinson Cano out there fielding. I'm all here for it. But his skill on the base pass, I think, is key. He clocked in with his first MLB home run with Dylan Moore on the paternity list. I think you will see even more run with him this week. So I think there's a little bit higher opportunity. I know that Locklear is going to get the majority of the starts right now at first base, but I can also see the scenarios where Luke Rayleigh plays a little bit there to spell him. I don't think Leo Rivas is stealing any time from Ryan Bliss right now. So
No.
since Rivas had one start in his 3 weeks up with the big club when JP was out. So go and give me Ryan Bliss to stay hot and
I
really
like it.
keep making defensive plays, but also swiping some bags. He might not be hitting for a bunch of power, but it's just electric when he's on the base paths and when he's in the game. He just does something in each of the game that just makes you go wow. Except for really his first game, but he did have a really sweet story of a first ball in play goes right to him for an out. All right, let's get into the second half of this episode. And a lot of chatter right now that the Mariners are going to be buyers at the deadline with how they're sitting right now. There's a lot of big names that are being thrown out as targets, and we're going to go over that in our next episode on Wednesday. Kind of talk about some of the top targets that have been flown around, and then go after a couple more under the radar type targets, if you will, that a lot of that people aren't talking as much about. And we want to talk about this because to go acquire those guys, it takes prospects. And the Mariners are sitting, depending on which place you look at, with 6 or 7 of the top 100 prospects. And Twitter/X is this big area right now where half the people want to go trade for the bats, half the people want to save prospects. But this is what you do. You have to get into a place where you are trading your prospects because you don't know what they will become in the big leagues, right? That's why they're a prospect for more proven commodities, right? And there's going to be some guys that are going to be uncomfortable to hear in trade conversations. But what we're going to do right now is talk to you about 2 players apiece that Kane and I think are untouchable for us in the prospect rankings and why they are that way. So, Kane, who's your first prospect?
I'm gonna go with Cole Young. He is just this smooth lefty in the box, dude. I've seen highlight after highlight of him just mashing baseballs. Let's jump into this a little bit, right? We drafted him last year,
two
correct? Or
years
two
ago.
years ago. In double A alone, he's hitting 281. That's fantastic. Or yeah, that's this year, right? No, that's all seasons. He's been in double A. So he's been
Yeah,
in
he
this
got a late
season.
call up last year.
Okay, so through 50 games, he has 6 home runs, which I'm pretty sure the home run numbers are coming up this year for him. Um, and the dude just is smooth out there in the field too. I mean, he plays shortstop now, but he's not going to on the big club most likely. But the dude can play a plethora of positions.
And he's the Mariners' #1 overall prospect right now.
Right. So I just
I think
think,
by every website, I think he clocks in at #1.
right. I think that he's too good of a talent for this team to let go, especially with a team that doesn't have a lot of, grown lefties through the farm in recent years, right? Uh, I always say get more lefties or get more switch hitters. because this team is very righty dependent if need be. Outside of Cal, they don't really have any other switch hitters besides, Class A. That,
Polanco,
yeah, Polanco also hasn't seen the field in a couple of weeks. So,
lefties, Rayleigh, Canzone, throw them in there.
and
Okay. No, I
I
think that
just,
Cole Young would be a tough one to go away from because he passed Harry Ford last year for top prospect in the
yes,
organization, and all he's done is hit wherever he's been. Right, this is a kid that was right out of high school. As soon as he hit pro ball, this kid could hit, and you know that he can hit, and that's what you're wanting to see. I think for the Mariners, he's probably 1 to 2 years out, best case, and then I think the only way that I'm giving him up is if I'm getting like Vladdy or Bo Bichette. He's not gonna be in my package if I could say go after a Luis Robert who's been oft injured. That's a little
mhm,
too steep a price for me, and I'm not trading my number one prospect for a rental and like a Pete Alonso, if you will. Those are kind of the hot names. We'll go into
yeah,
more depth on them, but unless it's for Bo or Vladdy, who has more than a year of club control and has all star games on their record, to go get proven commodities, you've got to give up top flight prospects. That's
yep,
how the game is played, right? Alex Verdugo is one of those big time prospects at one point, and he's finally clicking a little bit for the Yankees, but he's never really had that electric year for being a top prospect, right? We talked about Jared Kelnick before the game. That was another can't miss prospect. Hasn't really figured it out for extended periods in the bigs. It's tough to make that jump. So that's why I'm only including him if it's for the right deal.
yeah. So, who's your first untouchable?
First untouchable is Logan Evans. The dude has been absolutely dealing in double A. And you found out last week that Jerry Dipoto has moved him into the bullpen, which there was a former starter in double A that was dealing. They decide, you know what, your stuff plays. We're going to move you to reliever role. And it's kind of a fast track to the big club where the Mariners are sitting there a little bit thinner in the bullpen right now. You've got a plethora of guys that you're rotating through there. You know, Thornton's had a good year. Stanek's had his ups and downs, but has been mostly positive. You've got Munoz is a little bit banged up right now. Sauce not too far removed from injury as well. But you're looking for electrifying guys like Edwin Diaz, who made that jump from double A straight to the bigs. Former starter gets converted to a reliever. You look at the Matt Brash types, who was a starter, gets converted to a reliever. That's where the Mariners have excelled. Isaiah Campbell is another guy that had a
Yep.
great season for us last year and has not very fared very poorly for the Red Sox in that no win trade for Luis Urias, right? But
Yeah.
but with Logan Evans, he just cracked the top 100 a couple of weeks ago. But this is an area of need, and for me, I don't want to trade hitting prospects for a reliever because relievers are so up and down year in, year out, right? You look at Gabe Spire was DFA'd, pitched very well for us for a long stretch, was one of the most dominant lefties in the game this year. Andres Munoz has been consistently good, but Trent Thornton was DFA'd before we got him last year. He was pitching zero high leverage, and now he's a high leverage guy for you.
Yep.
So there's so many ups and downs and waves, and you look at players years and years. Great Fernando Rodney, all star, great, made you have a heart attack. Was absolutely terrible the next year. Mariners went from the top bullpen in the league, lost one piece, and then were near the bottom of the league. So go ahead and give me a guy who was taken in the 26th round 2 years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And just exploding up, or the 16th round. Sorry, not they don't go that deep. The 16th round, and he's just skyrocketed and worked his way up, and they love stuff. And the dude, as a starter, was rocking like a .7 ERA,
Mhm.
and was consistently the Cal or the because he got bumped in Double A, so he was that league's pitcher of the month last
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
before getting moved to reliever
I'm pretty sure he was also like player of the month
the previous
for,
month.
yeah,
I think he's
but
won both.
before he got moved to the bullpen, he
Yeah, I
was
think he
a
might have been the
pitcher of
pitcher
the
of the
month
month the first 2 months of the minor league season.
because he had like 6 outings where he didn't allow a run and
He's
struck
filthy.
out dudes at a high clip. So I pay attention to our minor league system now.
All
Not a
right,
whole lot, but
give
a
me
little bit.
another. Give me your last minor leaguer who's untouchable.
I think this is the biggest untouchable in all of Untouchables for the history of Untouchables. And that is Lazaro Montez. That dude is insane. Like
He's leading the
he
Cal League in so many offensive categories.
he is little Yordong Alvarez. And I think the Mariners would be foolish to give this kid to another organization. I mean, this is a generational hitter in all accounts. As you said, he's leading. Ooh, little Tyler Locklear hit. Let's go. Um, he is leading multiple stats in the Cal League.
Homers, RBIs. I think he's sitting at like 62 RBIs and like 12 dingers.
Let me give you little stats because I do have them pulled up.
Oh,
Uh,
great.
2024 with Modesto. He has 70 hits for Modesto.
Okay.
12 of them are home runs.
Said that.
And 64 RBIs, as you said. He's got one stolen bag, walked 37 times. So his walk to strikeout is not bad, 37 to 44. He has 11 doubles, one triple. Just the dude is insane.
He's a difference maker. And I would love to see if he could maybe get with Julio's speed trainer in the offseason because it's not like he's slow, right?
Mm.
Uh, and Jordan can still play out in the field, and he does from time to time, but he kind of profiles as that start once or twice a week in the field, probably profiles as a DH down the road. But with the way he's hitting, I very much would love to see what he does with Arkansas in the Texas League, right? That's been a notoriously tough place for players to hit in that league. So see if his numbers translate to double A because I think that this is a guy that once he clicks well enough at double A is probably going to skip triple A altogether and make his move to the big club. So he's still a younger guy, right? I believe he's clocking in right around 21 years old.
19.
Yeah. And what he's doing is just filthy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you only see like Juan Soto, Bryce Harper, those types of players doing what Lazaro's doing down there.
And
Like,
what's his batting average?
oh, let me hit you with that real quick. It is 329.
That's pretty good.
A career 306 hitter. And that's
Yeah.
in 630 at bats.
I mean, those are pretty good numbers, and he's got the power to pack it on. So
Yes.
for me, he's my second most untouchable guy. My first untouchable guy is Cole Emerson. This guy has come in like a freight train. Toolsy is all get out. He's another guy that just hit the ground running with the stick. Once he hit pro ball, this is another right out of high school guy. Playing shortstop right now, but probably profiles a little bit more as a third baseman in the bigs. This guy was drafted with our first pick last year. Last year, he cracked the top 100, which you sometimes see with guys, usually not guys drafted in the middle of the first round. They're usually not cracking the top 100 until spring, summer, when some guys get bumped up to the big leagues, lose some eligibility, right? He's now, depending on where you look, the second or third top prospect behind Cole Young and Harry Ford. Harry Ford was drafted 3 years ago, Cole Young 2 years ago, and Cole Emerson was drafted last year. He is consensusly a top 50 prospect. With a
Yes.
guy with that high of a ceiling, with the uncertainty on what you have in the future at third base. I love what Rojas is doing right now. He's also nearing 30. He hasn't had sustained success in the bigs. You got Demo that could play there. If I'm looking for an everyday third baseman like I have with Kyle Seager, that can be a decade long fixture at a position, the guy's got pop, he's got speed, he's got arm. Only thing he lacks a little bit in the field is a little bit of range to continue to play shortstop, but he's got all the other tools. And the guy can hit the ball. And
Yes.
that's my biggest guy where I don't want to give him up. I think that some of the guys that we didn't touch on, Harry Ford, he's second or third prospect. You've got Cal Raleigh on this team. Cal Raleigh's got more club control. I don't think that you move Harry Ford off catcher. What he can do with power at times and spurts, but his ability to get on base via the walk is tremendous for a catcher. His
And
ability to
what?
throw guys out at a clip
Well,
is pretty darn high.
one thing I want to throw in with Harry Ford, and I think the reason that you and I left him off of our list is I think he's a high piece in a trade that's going to happen. Um, and like you said, you got to throw out the big guns when going for a big
Proven
name. You know,
proven players.
I think that no matter who you go for, Harry Ford is in that trade because you're giving up your number two. You're probably giving up your number six or your number seven, and maybe your number eight or nine as well.
It depends on who you're going to attack, but I
Um,
think that with Harry Ford, he was a guy. I think the next closest guy, he was not untouchable for me. Like you said, I think that he is going to be probably the key piece of the deal. Uh, Another guy that I think is pretty close to untouchable is Johnny Formello, who was
yes,
also taken in the first round. That dude's been on fire for the nuts, and had a little, I think he was out for 3 or 4 games with a little bit of a rolled ankle and then comes back in and just lights on fire. And I think he's worked his way into the top 80 prospects already. This is kind of the
I
time where we talk about first round guys kind of working their way up, but that's usually the top 15 guys. Like this is where you would see Colt Emerson, cracking the top 100, not
mhm,
being, I think in some he's as high as like 37, right? But
right,
uh, where you see Formello, he's sitting there clocking in the 80s, and he was an end of the first round pick.
right, and another guy that probably is going to be dealt is what was his name again? Phelan, like
Fenlon Celestin,
yeah, he's another big name
which
that
is
I've seen
which
is one
it's
of the
tough because
keys.
he was one of the top prospects in the international signing window this year. Is his first time getting true action. He's bounced between Modesto and the Arizona Instructional League, and he did just recently rope a double off of rehabbing Robbie Ray.
Right, that's true. And
So,
with Farmello, what you said
and
earlier, I
he's probably the
follow
most suited defensively to stick at shortstop out of the entire group.
right. As you're talking about Farmello earlier. I follow this minor league.
Mariners
Like,
minors.
yeah, probably. I think I've sent you something from him once or twice, but it's literally just clips of Farmello and Lazaro just
Laz.
mashing everything.
They call him Laz.
All right.
Laz Montez.
They just mash back to back all the time.
And I touched on this a little bit earlier. With the Mariners, you sit there, you have some fans that are wanting to keep these prospects, but that kind of goes against the wind now with the struggles at the plate that you've seen at the big league level. You know that you've got to go acquire some pieces, and that takes prospects. But if you really look at this grand scheme of things, with Jerry's ability to make some trades. It'll be interesting to see with like the Tyson Miller trade, the guy we got in that deal. The guy's a pretty Slaughter, I believe it is a pretty decent little hitter. But we really look at this. The Mariners currently have 6 or 7 guys in the top 100. In the last 3 years, every single one of those guys were either drafted by the Mariners or signed during the international signing period. Celestin and Montez were from that period. You have Harry Ford that was from 3 years ago. Cole Young 2 years ago. Um, Logan Evans 2 years ago. Tyler Locklear 2 years ago. Everyone else was drafted last year.
Mhm.
And Ty Pete's in there too, who was another end of your first round pick. So if you trust this team's ability to find traits and draft college or high school hitters, and be able to consistently put them in the top 100. Everyone thought the farm system, you built up this farm system, the team wasn't good. You're going to be the Astros and promote from within. And you did that. You saw that on the pitching staff. But then being able to go get a Luis Castillo, everyone thought the world was falling. You get rid of Novelli Marte. We had the other shortstop at the time too that was absolutely killing it, and they're both gone.
Edwin
Edwin
wasn't that
Arroyo.
Edwin Arroyo? Yeah,
Both of them are gone. You're like, that was the
it was
shortstops of the
weird.
future,
Yeah,
right?
it was weird.
And you look at what Luis Castillo was down the stretch, and then guess what happens? Right after they trade those, you draft Cole Young. You
Yeah,
sign,
and then
you
Novelli
sign,
Marte got popped for 80
yeah,
games.
you sign Finland Celestin, right? And shortstop. Then you draft Cole Emerson, shortstop. Then you draft Ty Pete, shortstop. And every single one of those guys has hit your top 100 within a year of being drafted. So
Yes.
you need to give up prospects to get proven commodities. The Mariners are going to. You look at uh, Adam Jude, Jeff Passan. Jeff Passan said it in his ESPN article. The Mariners are buyers. You're going to hear their names with some of the biggest hitting prospects, and the Mariners will walk away with one
Yes.
this year. And you've heard the mixed comments from Stanton over the years, but he said, we know it's going to take more. We're going to do what it takes to win the division and hopefully win a World Series. And I hope that rings true. Whew. Yeah. So that is the episode.
Yep.
I would love you to go give us a follow over on social media. You can find me, your boy Coach Red, on X at the Real Coach Red, on Instagram at the Real _ Coach Red, TikTok at the Real Coach Red. Also find the show over on YouTube. Search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. Kane, where you at?
Find me over on Twitter at Kane2406. On TikTok, Kane0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Pause. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.